well-wishers and welcome to my channel Aspiring Minds. In today's video, we are going to decode the line-by-line meaning of the poem Afterwards by Thomas Hardy. So grab your virtual seats and let's begin. The poem Afterwards by Thomas Hardy was written in 1917 during World War I. Now this was a time when there was a lot of social and cultural changes as well as loss of life that was happening due to war. I already have made a video on war poetry which is live on my channel. You can look at it to get a feel of what was happening during World War I. And in this poem, Hardy reflects about his own possibility of dying and the legacy that he might leave behind after his death. So in this poem he explores the idea of how people remember someone after they have died, particularly focusing on whether they would remember the person as someone who appreciated and noticed the beauty of everyday life and nature. The poem Afterwards by Thomas Hardy was written in 1917 during World War I. Now this was a time when there was a lot of social and cultural changes as well as loss of life that was happening due to war. I already have made a video on war poetry which is live on my channel. You can look at it to get a feel of what was happening during World War I. And in this poem, Hardy reflects about his own possibility of dying and the legacy that he might leave behind after his death. So in this poem he explores the idea of how people remember someone after they have died, particularly focusing on whether they would remember the person as someone who appreciated and noticed the beauty of everyday life and nature. Remember, Thomas Hardy is a little complicated to understand, so what I've done is I'm going to give you the central message of the poem here, then I will be giving you the stanza wise meaning of the poem, and afterwards you must watch the themes which I'm going to also discuss at the end of this video. This will be able to help you to get an overall understanding of what Hardy was doing when he wrote this poem. So the central message of this poem is that he is reflecting on how the poet's presence and his appreciation for small and often details which we overlook about life and nature will be remembered after he is gone. So the poem highlights the idea that the true essence of a person's character and the impact he may have on the life of others is actually fully recognized after the death of that person. That is the reason why we see the poet naming the poem as Afterwards. Overall, the poem is divided into 5 stanzas. In stanza 1, we see the poet imagines a time when the present moment has closed the door on his current existence. During the month of May, the trees are in full bloom and the poet likes to hear the rustling sound of the leaves. Is the sound to the wings of birds. He says that the leaves are very fragile, they are very weak and delicate, which is similar to a newly spun silk fabric. The poet wonders what his neighbors will say about him. He was a man who used to notice such things. The poet hopes over here that people will remember him as someone who would appreciate the beauty of nature and would observe the small, minute details in life. In stanza 2, the poet considers another situation. He is imagining a moment in the twilight when everything is quiet and calm, similar to when we human beings close our eyelids when we are hardly able to see anything. That is the darkness he is imagining. He says that at this time he will see a hawk, which is a kind of a bird, coming down so that it can rest on the branch of a thorn tree. Someone at this time observing the poet will think that what kind of scenes is the poet at all imagining and writing about? The observer will assume that the poet was familiar with and appreciated such natural occurrences. It's not, he's wondering that how are people going to judge him when he's writing. In the poem, things like this about how a hawk is coming and resting on a thorn tree's branch. So he's saying that the only thing the observer will comment about the poet is that he has an eye for detail. He is able to appreciate the small natural things that occur around him. In stanza 3, the poet sees another situation where he is passing away in the darkness of the night, surrounded by moths and warmth. A hedgehog at this time he sees moving across a lawn which is covered with grass, and in this scenario he thinks that people will still acknowledge the poet for having cared for innocent creatures. But the poet was limited in his ability to protect them, and therefore he is now no longer alive. That is, at one time the poet would acknowledge and appreciate the small things that existed in nature. But in today's time, the poet is no longer alive to be able to do something to protect these innocent creatures. In stanza 4, the poet imagines people standing at the door when they hear about the death of the poet, and then he says that they took up at the starry night sky in winter. That is, the people were looking at the night sky in winter. That is when the poet would die, and the poet wonders if those who will never see him again will have this thought. And what is the thought those people would have? They may remember him as someone who appreciated and tried to find meaning to the mysteries of the universe, of the world, of nature. This is what he imagines, that are people who come to see him at his dying moment, when he has died, when they come to pay respect to the poet, are they going to think that Thomas Hardy as a poet had an eye for detail to find out and think about the mysteries of the universe? Finally, in stanza 5, the poet considers that when my bell of quittance is heard in the gloom, that is, when his death bell, his departure from life is announced by the ringing of a bell, what will happen? A passing breeze is going to interrupt the sound of the bell that is ringing. The sound of the bell is going to be interrupted for some time so that it can be renewed as if like a new bell is ringing. So here the poet suggests that while he may no longer be able to hear the death bell because he will already have died, he used to notice and appreciate such details in life. This is what he wants to be remembered with. Now, to understand why at all is this poem written, let us have a look at the 4 important themes in the poem Afterwards by Thomas Hardy. I'll be discussing it one by one. The first theme that comes out from our reading of the poem Afterwards is transience and mortality. The poem explores the transient or the fleeting nature of human life and the inevitability of death. That is, the ideas of life and death are things which cannot be controlled by human beings. These are things which are in the hands of God. So the poem emphasizes that life is fleeting. It is running away from our hands, and the poet thinks how he will be remembered after his death. That is what he's wondering, and he tries to state it that the minute details that he captures in this poem and all his other works, is he at all going to be remembered for the fact that the poet had eye for small details around him? We also see in this poem how Thomas Hardy has deep appreciation for nature and the beauty of everyday life. In Afterwards, he hopes to be remembered as someone who would notice and appreciate the small, often overlooked details of the natural world. We see how he captures the activity of a hedgehog, of a hawk in the poem. The poem raises question about the legacy or the example a person leaves behind and how they will be remembered by others after his death. It suggests that a person's true character and ability to appreciate life's wonders may only become fully visible after the person has died, because it is only when others have a memory of you do they try to associate you with something, and that is how you are able to understand what is the legacy, the example you've set by living your life. But unfortunately you will not be alive to see the legacy you've left behind. So therefore it is suggested that when you are living, live to the fullest and live righteously. Don't do anything wrong, but do the right things in life. The poem has a deep sense of connection to the past. It touches upon the idea of continuity and how present is actually connected to the past events. The poet imagines scenarios where people think of him in relation to familiar natural things that happen, highlighting how the present and the past are connected. It is because of the past actions that a person has done that he or she has a possibility of being remembered in a certain way in the future. So that's it from this video. I hope you liked it. Do hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more such future updates. Thank you for watching. Bye.